Hi, everyone, and welcome to another live edition of the Ethicast, coming to you from Atlanta, Georgia at the 16th Annual Global Ethics Summit. Also, big shout out to everybody who's attending virtually from around the world. We see you, and we're so glad you're with us here. I have, again, my colleague and friend, Karen Moore. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's great to have you back on the show.
Such a pleasure, Bill. Thank you.
So, Karen, I had a fantastic session with you on the main stage here at Global Ethics Summit, where we're talking about this wonderful AI and third-party risk management report that we got to work on together and published jointly by Ethisphere and GAN Integrity. But, we want to talk about a little bit on third-party risk management, just sort of beyond due diligence, and how this whole discipline, there's an entire galaxy of application here I'd love to pick your brain about. And I guess one thing is that there's this notion of, what AI can do and what we would like AI to do from a disciplinary front. And I know there's a notion of, could we use AI to evaluate our supply chains in such a way to detect vulnerabilities so we could pivot more easily, when those vulnerabilities are detected, and maybe see where those vulnerability spots may lie. And that question came up because today the whole global supply chain is in turmoil because of a global tariff war going on. I'm sure there are no small number of organizations that are reevaluating where their suppliers are and where they're going to be going to. I imagine we're going to see a period of supply chain and third-party chaos like we've never seen before. And all that reevaluation is going to give opportunities for new and novel concepts. And this might be where AI could kind of jump in. So I'd love to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think it's a great question. And I think 100% AI can do it. Are we building it to do it yet? I don't know. That's so fast developing. Yeah. So it should be responsive to the needs of people. So we should be imagining broadly, how can we use it? I do want to say that the due diligence component is really critical, right?
Sure.
We're not saying instead of TPRM, you should do all this other stuff, but
right.
It can go beyond third-party risk management and the due diligence on your supply chain. I really feel strongly how complicated right now the world has become geopolitically, geoeconomically.
Yeah.
Geography also, there's
Sure.
so many natural disasters and other events that can affect our supply chain. And we've got operations in most companies being very sophisticated about what they do. They have planning, they have contingency planning. But how can we use AI to scroll through our third-party universe and say, look, you're overexposed here, you're undercovered here, here's the potential for problems, not what's happening right now, but what may be happening, what might track in the future, so that we can be ready, we can start thinking 2 steps or 3 steps ahead.
Yeah. Now, on that note, what about, we often look at, in a supply chain context, people are having to look, 4, 5, 6, layers down away from where they are. But all those suppliers and all those third parties are connected to each other as well. Everybody is everybody else's third party. So, what are your thoughts on how we can best use AI to maybe get a sense of how all of the suppliers in the universe are connected to each other as well, and maybe uncover other aspects of risk or opportunities that were not readily apparent earlier?
They're both of those. That's a question that I've grappled with in the past in some of the companies I've worked in, but I've never used AI or third-party risk management tools to try and uncover that. So you look at some industries where the number of suppliers is limited, so there may be a lot of people using the same suppliers, but you also look at maybe smaller geographies. I know in one factory town in a company I worked for, everyone in the company had been there for generations.
Sure.
And so you have that whole conflicts of interest internally to the company, but you also had conflicts outside of that, because all the people that were hired as drivers or cleaners or builders or food suppliers, they're all in that town. And so how are you uncovering and identifying that potential for conflict, potentially even for fraud? So it is a fraud detection tool as well. And as you said, potentially for opportunity. How do you say, maybe there's a little more we can do here to take advantage of these kind of interconnected companies?
And, when we speak about the vast interconnection of all these companies, we often, think about, okay, well, what industries are they in, or where are they? Are they in a compromised spot by way of trade compliance or something like that? But also, what I can't stop thinking about a little bit is the nature of what you're looking for as well. Like there could be confidentiality risk in there that you wouldn't necessarily attach to other parties. There might be end use risk, such as certain suppliers ultimately feed into military applications, which completely change the whole legal scope of who you can and can't do business with. Have you thought about that in terms of like, what does it merit us to look at supply chain from that perspective?
I think it's very important in some industries, especially in manufacturing industries. You've got a limited number of suppliers of key critical components. And so they're supplying not just you, but all of your competitors as well.
Sure.
Again, this is not an unknown risk, but maybe people aren't thinking about using a third-party risk management tool to uncover and manage those. So which of my competitors is the same supplier supplying, and do we have enough safeguards in place? Do we have firewalls? Are we making sure that there isn't sensitive information being shared? For example, I may be planning to open a new manufacturing facility. I'm ordering equipment that's going to be delivered there. I don't want my competitors to know that I'm making plans to develop manufacturing there. And then you did talk about that kind of end use and the military component. That's got to be a really critical part of the due diligence, but also getting somebody, getting a system, getting artificial intelligence to think ahead. Could this become a problem? Is it okay to sell into this country now, and it's not going to be okay to sell into that country in the future?
Yeah, and to that point, you mentioned that these are not new risks, these are not unknown risks. But what I keep thinking about is that apart from, I'm sure there are people out there who are like, I am just done hearing about AI. Look, we've had a working program so far. It's worked well. We don't necessarily need it right now. And I mean that sounds a little bit like John Henry versus the steam engine, to be honest with you. As much as I respect John Henry, he did die at the end of that story. But what also comes to mind is this is a way to build extra resiliency into your own risk management process as well. Like even if you are handling things well with AI now, imagine how much more robust a system you can put into place and how much more multiplicity of options you have should there be a disruption, if you can only tell where you could go.
There are multiple uses, I think, that can create a lot of efficiencies for one, and also a lot of agility for another. The ability to pivot, the efficiencies of having an AI analyze your supply universe and say, wow, you're kind of overweighted in suppliers in this area, and maybe underweighted here, because in a lot of organizations you've got siloed operations that may not be talking to each other. You may have 6 or 7 different parts of your organization contracting for the same type of goods or services, and you haven't realized that efficiency to maybe consolidate and reduce.
And speaking of consolidation, there's also a concentration of risk issue as well, and perhaps our pieces in your supply chain perhaps too distant from each other, as opposed to too concentrated and creating inefficiencies.
Absolutely, and those can be physical inefficiencies too. They're too far in terms of transportation and shipping and delivery.
Sure.
The whole logistics universe, I think, can benefit from this overlay of AI within the supply chain. So things that I think are already being handled by different parts of the organization using different tools. I think you can use one tool. You feed more information into the artificial intelligence. It's going to start gaining the ability to be more sophisticated in the outcome that's proposed. You always need human instruction. You always need human intervention at the end.
Of course.
But the part in the middle, to have something doing the work and kind of proposing issues and risk areas that you might not have thought of for you to consider to discuss and maybe to act on. I think there are quite a lot of opportunities. And if you're already using the tool, why would you not?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Well, Karen, I sure appreciate you coming back on the show and sharing your insights with us on this. Thank you so very much.
Such a pleasure.
Where can people go to learn more?
So I am operating a consultancy. It's Sounding Board Compliance, as you mentioned, and I do have a website, www.soundingboardcompliance. It's a lot to type into, .com, but otherwise contact me via LinkedIn or through the Ethisphere app as well.
Indeed, and you're still doing very exciting work as a board member at GAN Integrity as well. So
I'm very excited. I admire them so much for bringing compliance into the boardroom.
Indeed. Well, thank you very much. This has been another episode of Ethicast here at the Global Ethics Summit, coming to you live from Atlanta, Georgia. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you again soon. Bye now.